Hey everybody, today you and we're falling in love with Coleus right here, right now, because this new collection of Coleus that we have, it's just taking my breath away. And I was super excited about last year's collection. So to have these new varieties that came out, some of them absolutely brand new to market, and knowing what they're going to become is very exciting, but also the fact that they look fantastic right now, and they're just itty bitty plants. And Coleus is one of those plants that tends to just get better as it matures a little bit. So for it to look good at this size really says something. And Coleus has been around for a long time. It's been very popular for shady spots, but the new varieties have come a long way. So nowadays, these new varieties, they can handle sun or shade. The old varieties, if you put them in full sun, some of them would either crisp up a little, they just couldn't handle that heat, or they might start to wilt, or they would start to fade. They'd lose their color, and they also, tend to need a lot more water in the sun. But now these varieties are so much more consistent. They can handle that sun, they can handle the shade, they tend not to lose their color. There's very little variation between the ones that you grow in the shade and the ones that you grow in the sun. I have noticed that sometimes the one in the sun might grow a little faster, but eventually they all kind of catch up to each other. At least that's been my experience. The only one on this table that isn't full sun would be this tray here, these three trailing Coleus. These tend to not like that really hot, intense afternoon sun. They can manage if they get enough water, but it can be a little risky for them. But otherwise, all the other ones are great. So that they can handle it. It's really nice. So now I'm going to tell you about some of the different varieties. And I'm going to start with probably these three here, because this is a brand new series called Talverna. So these Talverna Coleus, they have this beautiful habit. I saw them in the trial gardens, and I saw them in at least 3 different places, and they were so consistent. They were really well branched, well formed, looked fantastic. And one of them I saw in September, and they were still looking good. They were really big in September too. So these are vigorous varieties. My favorite here is the Moondust, and it has these little lime speckles in those red leaves. It's really nice, and then it has a little bit of green margin on it. This one is just very unusual that way. It looks fantastic, really happy with it. This one here is the pink Tricolor, and it's just starting to get its pink stripe, which is really beautiful. And we noticed that the Coleus, with the more pink it has, the faster it sells for us. So I wanted to make sure and get this one because it was a really nice variety as well. This one over here is the Sienna, and the Talverna Sienna is really beautiful. It has that nice rust color with that little bit of a lime edge to it. Absolutely fantastic. I'm just really excited. This is definitely, if you haven't tried Coleus, these might be 3 to really look at. However, I say that, but then I also love all these other ones. So this one here is charged up Dragonheart, and you can see it's got that lime color with that nice red and pink on the inside. So this one's just a really beautiful one. It's been around for a little while, but it's just been put into the charged up kind of series that they kind of moved in. Now these next 4 over here, some of those have been around for a while, some of them haven't, but they are a new series as well. It's the Volcano series. So this one is called Veno, and it has that beautiful, really dark leaf, almost black. And then the next one is Solar Flare. This is really an unusual one because it has this really wavy edge to it with a lime margin, but then that beautiful kind of red and pink inside. Super intense color. It's not even halfway to its intensity yet, and it already looks really good, but it's going to look fantastic later on. The next one is Trusty Rusty. That one's been around for a while, and it's beautiful. It almost looks kind of like it's an ember glow type of plant when you see it from a distance. It's not doing it justice with its color when you see it at this size, but once it starts getting bigger, it's a really good one. It does have a lot of similarity to the Sienna, so I'll be curious to see how they both look as the season goes on. It may be that one or the other may make the cut for next year. We'll see, because they're going to have new varieties and you're going to want them all. So I'm going to have to be a little selective. And then the last one down there is the Volcano French Quarter, and that's another one with a beautiful pink stripe. It's a really good one. Another good habit on it as well. So everything on this row is just really nice. But then down at the bottom, that's the entire Main Street series that we're carrying. There's a couple other varieties in the Main Street family that I don't have, but we have a pretty good selection. So I'm going to try to remember what we have here. The lime one is Chart Street, and then Rodeo Drive. Riverwalk has kind of this little bit of bicolor. It's lime with the dusting of dark green. Wall Street is the coppery color one. That one gets a nice orange color to it. And then the next one is Sunset Boulevard. Has much more of maybe more of a peach color to it. And then this one here is Fifth Avenue. And Fifth Avenue, right now, you're seeing the pink stripe, but that pink stripe gets pretty intense as time goes on. This one with the dark vein, that one is Venice Boulevard. And then Beale Street is the nice red one. And then that last one is Ocean Drive. And Ocean Drive is another one with that lime edge, burgundy leaf with a pink stripe down the center, and you know, just fantastic. The Main Street series has been a very good performer for us. It grows really easily, it gets to a nice size, the color stays really nice. I did notice that Beale Street sometimes would get a little bit of a copper shimmer to it if it was in full sun, but it looked pretty nice even with that. But not all the plants did, or not all the leaves did, so it was kind of interesting that way. Now up here we have kind of some more, I'm going to say novelty varieties. These are from the Under the Sea series. So we had these two before. This first one is Bonefish, and absolutely my favorite from the Under the Sea series. It has an extremely interesting, heavily lobed leaf, really stunning, kind of has this curvy feel to it, definitely holds up to the Under the Sea name. The one next to it is Gold Guppy, and that one has much more of a yellow cast than the other ones. And from what I've seen in the trial gardens, the yellow starts to show up even more as it matures. And then this last one here is Barracuda, and this one just has a really nice kind of flare in the leaf. This is the one that I put in my staff competition pot, so we all plant up different planters and we let people vote on which one they like the best. And I put this one in it because I did a shade pot and it looked absolutely great. I had it with a Griffin begonia and a couple other things, some Terenia. These next three are from the Flamethrower series. And the Flamethrower series, they have a much different habit than some of these other ones. These are going to be more, I guess I'm going to say more kind of like little bushes or little, you know, round mounds, whereas those tend to have more of this fountain flame kind of look to them. So they have narrow serrated leaves and that plush leaf habit. This color here is Cajun Spice, so it has a bit of a burgundy red with that lime around the edge. This one is Roja, so it's mostly red. It'll get little hints of green in it, but for the most part, you're gonna see really nice red colors in it. And the last one is Spiced Curry, and it has a nice green color that has almost a satin or a metallic kind of sheen to it as it gets more mature. Looks really beautiful, has a nice dark rim, and then if you look at the underside of the leaf, it's a little darker, more of a red with that veining. A beautiful one that looked great in every trial garden that I saw it in, so absolutely stunning. I find Coleus to be one of the easiest plants to grow. You can put them in a container, you can put them in the ground. They tend to play nice with other plants, although sometimes they do get really big and they can shade out some of the plants underneath it. So just make sure that you have a large enough pot for the type of Coleus that you get, because these varieties are really vigorous. There are a lot of Coleus though that are a lot smaller. So check your tags so you have a sense of how big it's going to get. And note that they tend to be slower starters. So they tend to grow very slow in the beginning of the season, but then once the heat comes on, once we get, you know, halfway through July, suddenly they just get huge. They double in size and they, you know, really start showing off at that point. They look good before that, but they look exceptional after that. Now, Coleus is one of those plants that you can kind of trim back, you know, just pinch off leaves. And in fact, I started Coleus for the first time from seed. This one is called the Black Dragon Coleus. And you can see not as exciting as all these here, but hey, it's my first Coleus from seed. So I'm very proud of that. And when you're growing from seed, or if you have a plant that kind of has one central stalk, with most of the Coleus, you can just pinch it off. So you just pinch it right above where there's a split. So I'm going to do that down here. And that's going to encourage the plant to be more, more bushy. Now, a lot of people will also put these in water and let them root, or they put them in a rooting type of situation. I haven't tried that, so I'm not going to tell you how to do that, but a lot of people will do that with those. So these will pinch as well. We're going to plant them out, and once they get to a certain size, then we just pinch them and get that nice branching habit. And you can keep pinching them if it's growing in a direction you don't like or anything like that. Just give them a little pinch here or there. They do grow back. So even if you have a bald spot, don't worry. Coleus tends to fill in really nice over time. So you just got to give it a week or two, and then usually those new leaves will start to emerge in those spots. As far as fertilizer, Coleus don't need quite as much fertilizer as you're going to need like with the petunia and some of these other plants that produce a lot of flowers, but a little bit of fertilizer does help. So a lot of times we'll just use like the time release pellets and put those out, and we would add more every 6 to 8 weeks, because as it gets hotter in the summer, those pellets tend to dissolve faster than they do when the temperatures are below 70 degrees. So as we get warmer, we tend to put a little bit more out. Or if you're watering your other plants and you use like a water-soluble fertilizer, or you have something that you're using with your other plants, you can put that right on these. They'll appreciate it. You don't necessarily have to do it every single week though. You could skip 1 or 2 weeks and they'll be just fine with that. So you don't have to use as much fertilizer with these as you normally would. But if it's on your calendar and you just do it all the time, they generally don't mind it as well. So you're going to be okay. Remember, they don't have flowers, so they don't necessarily benefit from a bloom boosting type of fertilizer, but you can use that same fertilizer. You don't have to switch out or anything like that. It gets too complicated, and these plants are not that fussy. So you're good to go with whatever fertilizer you use, and they'll be good. Even the fertilizer you use on your lawn would feed these things just fine. So it all works out in the end. They are so easy. So that's what I'm going to say about these. I think you need to have more of this in your life because it is going to make your gardening a little easier, especially if you're someone who maybe doesn't have a lot of time. These things, if they're planted in the shade, you don't water them very much at all. They don't take up tons of water in the shade. If they're in the sun, they tend to need a little bit more water, so you're going to want to pay attention to that. 2 questions that come up every time I talk about new varieties is, one, are these available from seed? And as far as I know, none of these Coleus are available from seed. There are a lot of great varieties that are available from seed, but as far as I know, these are not. The other question is, are these all proven winners? And the answer is none of these are proven winners varieties. Proven Winners has a really nice series called the Color Blaze series, and they're great Coleus, but those aren't featured here. These are all independent of that. So like I said, we've got the Under the Sea series, Flamethrower, Volcanica, Talverna. This is the Falls series, the trailing ones, and then the Main Street series. I have to admit, I'm very excited about these. I can't wait to see them in pots and how they look in combinations. It's going to be a really exciting year. And please, if you have any suggestions or tips or things that you do with your Coleus that seem to work, leave a comment, tell me about it, because you guys tend to know things that I can't find anywhere else, or things that I just don't even know about. And then once you tell me, I go and look it up and I think, how did I not know this? So thank you guys for all the suggestions that you make. If there's a favorite variety that you have, do leave that in the comments as well, because I have a feeling I might be trying a couple Coleus from seed next year. So I'm curious about those of you who start from seed, which ones are your favorites. One thing I will say about the ones that are up here is that these tend to be either sterile or really late blooming, because Coleus will produce a flower and that's how they get the seed. But in order to keep them looking good, usually the ones that flower, you usually want to pinch those flowers off. They're going to last a lot longer and look better and stay fuller if they don't go to seed. So with some of the older varieties and some of the seed varieties, you're going to be pinching a lot more. These varieties tend to produce seed very, very late in the season. Sometimes with our frost, they're dead before they produce seed. So it's not too big a deal. Also protect these from the cold. They do not like when it starts getting like below 50. I mean, they can survive a little bit lower temperatures, but honestly, if they're in anywhere between 35 and 45, they can look pretty stressed. If they get anywhere near freezing, a lot of times they'll just die off. So protect them from the cold. So I think I've given you what I know about Coleus. I hope you guys try some new varieties, and I wish you guys the best of luck. And remember, leave some comments. Tell me what you're going for with the Coleus, and I'm just looking forward to hearing from you. Thanks.